Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's Friday is going very well and y'all are ready for the weekend. Um, Today, we're going to be jumping into lesson three, um, Spanish explorations. Um, Before we start our Spanish explorations, um, just to do a little recap of lesson two. So, lesson two, we talked about different explorers. Uh, and one reason we're talking about different explorers is because remember, we have now realized that um, Christopher Columbus was not in China, right? It was a whole new continent. And so they are starting to realize that these two continents are very big because we know they're North America and South America, and there's a whole lot to explore. Now, one of the biggest and best um, explorers, the best empires or countries at this time is Spain. Spain is the most rich and the most powerful. Now, here in a little bit, we'll be talking about England in the next couple chapters, and England is going to turn into the biggest and the most powerful. All right, but Spain at this time is super powerful, and so they want to get as many explorers in these new continents as possible. For one, to expand their land, to as well get some money, or maybe there's some new resources there that they can get or find, right? So we're going to be talking about nothing but Spanish explorers here, okay? So the King of Spain, he encouraged explorers. He offered grants or large sums of money to anybody who wanted to be an explorer. All right, these explorers, these Spanish explorers, we're going to be calling them conquistadors. All right, conquistadors is Spanish for conquerors. All right, so we're going to be talking about Spanish conquistadors today. The first conquistador we're going to talk about is this guy right here. All right, his name was Juan Ponce de Leon. He sailed with Columbus on his second voyage, and later he helped conquer Puerto Rico. Now, while he was in Puerto Rico, he learned about an island to the north called Bimini. And he also heard the island had this so-called Fountain of Youth. Now, this Fountain of Youth was this water, and supposedly, if you drank it, it made old people young again. Ponce de Leon was obsessed with finding this. So in 1513, Ponce de Leon, he set out to find it. Instead, he landed in what is now the state of Florida. So he was the first one to really be in the United States. All these other ones that we've talked about have been either in South America or in the Caribbean. Juan Ponce de Leon was the first one to be in the United States, and he founded Florida. He named it Florida. La Florida is what he called it. That's Spanish for flowery. And he claimed it for Spain. So at first, Florida was actually owned by Spain. In 1521, Ponce de Leon, he returned to Florida to start a settlement. Ponce de Leon was wounded in a battle while he was there in Florida, and he never found the Fountain of Youth. He was obsessed with it, and it's eventually what ended up killing him, trying to find that Fountain of Youth. But he became the first Spanish explorer to set foot in what would one day be the United States, and that's what's important about Ponce de Leon. All right. The next explorer we're going to be talking about is Hernando Cortez. Hernando Cortez. All right. Cortez went to the land of the Aztecs in what is now Mexico. Right. The Aztecs were a Native American group, and they sent him there because he wanted to find gold. Now they heard about the Aztecs. They heard that they were very fierce. And they were all warriors. So they sent 650 soldiers with Cortez. His soldiers, they went to this place called Tenochtitlan, which was the Aztec capital. Now, when they walked in there, they were really confused. The reason that they were confused was because the Aztecs were being very, very polite and even very giving to Cortez and his soldiers. The reason that was because they had this religion, and the religion that they had this belief that at one time there would be this light skinned God because, they were Native Americans. Their skin was a lot darker. They believed that there was one to be this light-skinned God that one day would come back to rule them. Well, Cortez walks in and they see him and they say, wow, this is our God. And Cortez, being smart, plays it off. He's like, yeah, I'm your God, right? So Cortez took advantage of the Aztecs and their beliefs, and as soon as he gained their trust, he used it to the advantage, and he actually got all of his soldiers in there, and then once he had an opportunity, he ended up fighting with the Aztecs. He ends up taking over Tenochtitlan, and the Spanish built Mexico City, right? And it's kind of crazy to think about, now when you think about Mexico, what language they speak. They speak Spanish, right? So Spain is going to claim a lot of what is today Mexico, and that's why they still speak Spanish today. So after Cortez found gold, he kept hearing about these rumors that there were these 7 cities of gold. These Native Americans kept telling him that. So Cortez sends this guy named Deinza and Estefanico. Now, I don't have a picture of them, but this is just kind of a cool story. He sends them to find these 7 cities of gold. And when they come back, they said, we seen it. We found the 7 cities of gold. So this rumor gets spread around everywhere that there's these 7 cities of gold, and everyone's going to want to find it, right? If you can find a city made of gold, you're going to want to find it. Now, more than likely, Deinza was being smart. He didn't want to get killed and make Cortez upset, so he kind of made up that, oh yeah, we found it, right? Well, because of these 7 cities of gold, Spain is going to claim a lot of land. They're going to go, and as they're searching for the 7 cities of gold, they're going to claim a lot of land in what is today Mexico. One explorer looking for those 7 cities of gold was Francisco Vasquez de Coronado, and we'll just call him Coronado. In 1540, he set out with about 300 soldiers and several enslaved Africans and more than 1,000 enslaved Native Americans to find the golden cities. Coronado explored the lands in what is now the southwestern United States. So he did go up into the United States, like in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, those areas. He never found the cities of gold. They looked and looked everywhere, and they could not find it. But as he was going, he would go and claim land for Spain. He ended up claiming so much land that they took this land in what is today Mexico, the southwestern United States, and Florida, and he claimed it, and it became New Spain, right? So they called it New Spain, right? So Spain had control in North America, all of what is today Mexico, the southwestern United States, like Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, where that is today, and now they even had Florida. So Spain has all kinds of new land that they own in North America. The next explorer we're going to talk about is De Soto, Hernando de Soto. De Soto, he explored the southeastern United States. So he went over towards like Florida, Alabama, Georgia, those areas. And what's important about De Soto was they kept hearing about this big river. Native Americans kept telling them about these big rivers that was just a little bit down the road from them. They said, if you keep going a little bit more east, or you'll find this big river. Well, De Soto, he goes and he explores, and he is actually the first one to see with his own eyes and find the Mississippi River. De Soto had to fight a lot of Native Americans on his way there. So a lot of Native Americans and these conquistadors, they did not get along very well. Another reason they didn't get along very well was actually because Spain too was going in this transformation from going from the Catholic Church to the Lutheran Church, right? Lutheran Church it's just another form of Christianity. It's kind of really where we get a lot of our ideas today. Like if you go to a Baptist church or a Church of Christ or a Free Will Baptist, it kind of goes along with what the Lutheran Church does. So they were trying to take these Native Americans and convert them to Christianity, and they already had their own sets of ways of life, and they already had their own religion. And they would go into these and conquer these lands and say, not only are we going to conquer these lands, but you're going to change your religion and you're going to start living your life like we, the Spanish, do. And the Native Americans they didn't handle that very easily, right? So it was either that they were either going to adapt to the way the Spanish did, or they were going to fight. And a lot of times they picked fighting. But the thing is that the Spanish, they had a lot of better equipment. They had a lot better technology than these Native Americans did. So a lot of times the Native Americans would lose. For example, the Spanish had, they had armor. They even had muskets, like guns. Another thing they had that the Native Americans had never even seen before was horses. This is a lot of people don't know this. There were not horses in America at all until the Spanish came. And now Kentucky is known for having horses, right? So we have the Spanish to thank for that. So there's a little fun fact for you to know, okay? All right, guys, so what you're going to do for me now is you're going to take that quiz for me, and it's going to be kind of like the same setup as Thursday. All right, we have some matching that we're going to do over the explorers that we talked about today. Those explorers, one more time, was Hernando de Soto. You had Coronado, had Cortez, and you had Ponce de Leon. So 4 again. All right. Guys, if you have any questions, as always, message me on Canvas. Bye, guys.